Welcome back. In our previous lesson, we have looked at the inverse of a function. We've mentioned how practical the inverse of a function can be. My name is Nana Yawedu, and you can call me Sir Nana. Remember to like this video, share this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and don't forget to click on the notification bell so that you can get all videos on time. In this lesson, we want to look at how we can find the inverse of a function. So to find the inverse of a function, what are some of the processes that we must take? Right, so to find the inverse of a function, the steps in find the inverse of a function are: first, if you have a function, equate that function f of s to be equal to y. Right, we want to use the y parts, right? For instance, for y to be equal to 3x plus 2, right? We want to write the function as what? Y to be equal to 3x plus 2. That is, if the function is f of x is equal to 3x plus 2. And then the next thing we do is to interchange the variables. So where we see y, we can put x there. And where we see s, we can put y there. So it becomes 3y plus 2. And then once we have interchanged the variable, we make y the subject. So it means that we are going to have 3y to be equal to x minus 2. Then we divide 2 by 3. We divide 2 this side as well by 3. So that we can have our y to be equal to x minus 2 all over 3. Now we will express the inverse of the function as f inverse, right? F inverse. So this is a symbol used to express the inverse of a function as the x minus 2 all over 3. Right, so these are the steps you must take when you are finding the inverse of a function. So first, let the function f of s be equal to y, or the function g of x be equal to y, or h of x be equal to y. And then we have y to be equal to the function, and then interchange the variables, right? So where we see y, we put s there. Where we see s, we put y there. So if it's a function of t, where we see t, we can put y there. Where we see y, we put t there, right? And then we make y the subjects, and then we express that as the inverse of a function. So now how do we find the inverse of these functions? Let's look at how we can find inverse of these functions. So the first function, we have f of x to be equal to x minus 2 all over 3x minus 5. And then g of x is equal to 2 all over 5x plus 1. So let's look at how we can find the inverse of these functions. So the first function, right, is f of x is equal to x minus 2 all over 3x minus 5. So we can say that let y to be equal to the function f of x. So this implies that y is equal to x minus 2 all over 3x minus 5. Then the next step, we say interchange the variables. Interchange the variables. So that implies that we have our x, right? So in place of y, we put x there to be equal to y minus 2 all over 3y minus 5. Then we are going to make y the subject, so we have x multiplying the expression 3y minus 5. When we cross multiply, is equal to y minus 2. Then we can expand this to have 3xy minus 5x to be equal to y minus 2. Then we group all the y terms, so it means that we have 3xy minus y to be equal to minus 2 plus 5x. Factorize y out, so we have y to be 3x minus 1 to be equal to minus 2 plus 5x. Then we divide through by the coefficient of the y. So in this part, we have the coefficient of the y to be equal to 3x minus 1. And then this side to be 3x minus 1. So it means that we have our y, right, to be equal to minus 2 plus 5x all over 3x minus 1. Right, so it means that we write our inverse f inverse, right, of x to be equal to minus 2 plus 5x all over 3x minus 1. So our inverse must be expressed in terms of x, right? Remember that you have to express your inverse in terms of x. Now let's look at how we can find the second question. So in the second question, we've been given a function g of x, right? So we have g of x, and that g of x is equal to 2, right, at the numerator, all over 5x plus 1. So in this case, we say let y be equal to g of x, and that implies that y is equal to 2 all over 5x plus 1. And then we interchange the variables, so it becomes x to be equal to 2 all over 5y plus 1. Then once we interchange the variables, we would make y the subject. So that implies that in making y the subject, we are going to have x multiplying 5y plus 1 is equal to 2. And that gives us the expression 5xy plus x is equal to 2. And that means that we would want to make y the subject, we'll move the x across the equal sign. Then we are going to have 5xy is equal to 2 minus x. Then we divide through by the coefficient of the x, which is 5y. Then we divide through this as well by the coefficient of the, right, coefficient of the y rather, right? So we have to divide through by the coefficient of the y. So in this case, it has to become 5x. So we have 5x here. We divide through this by 5x. So that implies that this 5 will divide this 5, x divide x. And then since you are making y the subject, y becomes equal to 2 minus x all over 5x. So therefore, we can write the inverse, right? And in this case, it was j. So j inverse of x to be equal to 2 minus x all over 5x. So that is a procedure you go through in order to algebraically find the inverse of a function. And as we mentioned, for inverse of a function, it looks like at basically finding the opposite function to a function, right? So we want to look at expressing the opposite function to a function. This lesson, we have looked at how we can find the inverse of a function. Remember to like this video, share this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel. In our next lesson, we want to look at some questions in order to revise all the things that we have done so far. So we'll look at things on composition, things on finding the inverse and the range using questions. See you in the next lesson.